Okay, we're continuing with the Holy Grail of Wisdom quotes by me, Pete Rogers. We're doing Polybius. Polybius lived from 203 to 120 BC. He was of Greek birth. He was an Achaean, part of the Achaean League. In a high-status family he was born, but then he was captured by the Romans, and they liked him because he was a diplomat. He was a military commander. He became friends with Scipio Africanus, who conquered Carthage. And he was a smart guy, and he saw, this is amazing, this little city, Rome, conquered the known world in like 53 years. And he was amazed by the Roman Republic and its constitution, its system of checks and balances that enabled it to maintain stability. Unlike most countries, they just devolve and go into decadence and fall. So he wrote the history of Rome, okay, rather extraordinary history. In the order of the great historians of the ancient world. Of course, we begin with Herodotus, the father of history of the ancient Greeks, who wrote about the Persian Wars. Then you go to Thucydides, who wrote about the Peloponnesian War, and he's a great historian, sort of the Machiavelli of his time. Okay, then the next you're going to go to is going to be Polybius. And Polybius was a Greek man who became historian of the Roman rise to world power, world dominance, and how it ruled. Okay, our founding fathers were very impressed by him, as was John Locke, and a lot of his ideas praising the Roman Republic Constitution were implemented in the founding of the United States. Okay, Rome sort of had three major periods. It had a monarchy, about 500 years, followed by its republic, about 500 years, followed by its empire, with Augustus and whatnot. Okay, the fall of the republic was like the time of the triumvirate with Julius Caesar and Crassus and Pompey and Cicero also then trying to preserve the republic, and it's sort of devolving into civil wars and then being taken over by Octavian Augustus Caesar. Okay, so anyways, Polybius was a stepping stone in terms of all this history. Some things that were good about him, and he praised himself. He said, look, I was a diplomat and I was a military commander, so I really understand how these countries interact with each other, and he felt, rightfully so, that made him a better historian. And he wrote about something called anacyclosis, the cycle of different types of rule in a country. He felt anarchy is often then changed into kingship. That tends to become corrupt and leads to tyranny. Aristocracies tend to devolve into oligarchies. Democracies tend to devolve into mob rule. And a republic is the best form because that has a balanced constitution of checks and balances so that no one has total power, and it can often stabilize itself, and that's why it's considered the best form of government. Polybius, there can be no rational administration of government when good men are held in the same esteem as bad ones. Yeah, when people make up excuses for mediocrity. Okay, almost the whole inhabited world was conquered by Rome within 50 years. Can anyone be so indifferent as to not care to know by what means almost the whole inhabited world was conquered and brought under dominion of a single city of Rome? And that too within not quite 53 years. So yeah, it was amazing. It was the biggest event in the history of the world that this city, Rome, had conquered everyone. Okay, and then he talks about how to rule a country. He said the masses must be filled with fears to keep them in order. He said the ancients did well to invent gods and the belief in punishment of after death. That's what his opinion was back around, 120 BC. He said the best education for actual life is the study of history, for it is by history alone that we are able to judge, and gives us the best source of information to decide in any situation. So anyways, that's Polybius. I actually think, of course, Thucydides is more important. He's the most important of the Greek historians to know about. Herodotus had a few good quotes, first guy to write in prose, and he was kind of interesting. But the big one to know is Thucydides. Polybius, useful. Anyways, that's it for this session. Hope you found that helpful.